Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the coach from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Payoff.
Welcome to an all-new episode of The Payoff. I'm Tom. That's Jeff. Today, we are covering the greatest professional wrestler ever facing off against Hulk Hogan.
That's right. Yep.
No, you obviously, I'm a massive Hulk Hogan mark. But man, Lesnar for me, it's tough to say top 5, but certainly top 10. And I just feel like I have him higher and I hold him in higher regard than most do. And I just feel like he's one of the best ever. And in the moment, it's tough to think that. And I know he's kind of in and out a lot over the years. But man, when it's all said and done, if you really look at his body of work, quality of matches, awesome baby face, awesome heel, the way he emerged on the scene, which we're going to cover today. I love the guy, man.
Yeah, I think it is interesting. I was not that long ago, some Brock's birthday was, I forget when it was, but it was not that long ago. And I was looking up just some of the trajectory of some of the stuff he had done. And I don't know anybody that he hasn't wrestled. He's wrestled everybody. Everyone will always remember the WrestleMania moment, but there was so many other things in his career, youngest guy, all this stuff. And so, this was one that was just interesting. I know Hogan has actually talked about this match himself, is kind of helping put Brock over. Hogan got his timeline mixed up on this and kind of when this happened and stuff like that, though. And so, that whatever, no big deal. But this was one where, it's almost like, how can you not talk about it? Right now, I guess if you were to take the pulse of the wrestling industry, these guys aren't necessarily the most well-liked because of the off-screen type stuff. But at the same time, as we've heard over the years and we've talked about, sometimes, separating that and kind of what happens in the ring, it's interesting. And so, at the same time, these guys, they'll always get a pop, plain and simple. So this is one that, just kind of when it occurred this early, you and I were, in our teens, kind of watching this one at this point, you kind of, taking that in. I know you and I were both pretty hooked at this point and kind of engrossed with the wrestling. Not that it was necessarily the best product, but we were watching every week, no matter what. So, I think it's just a good one to cover on a weird that it's on a Smackdown, but not the Brock that we know today. And, was the Hogan though, but just kind of interesting taking place on a Smackdown.
Yeah, this is a wild show and it'll be a fun match to watch. I'm pretty pumped to cover this. Let's get right into the build.
Oh, it's time for the build.
So this is all occurring on a Smackdown. Okay, keep that in mind. Pretty wild that we're August 8th of 2002. We're on a Smackdown. We're in the build to SummerSlam 2002, which got Shawn Michaels returning. Yep. You got Brock Rock, one of the best SummerSlams of all time, arguably the best, perhaps. So we're on the road to that show, and just a loaded Smackdown. So we start off with Cena and Angle finishing in a DQ in 8 minutes. Mark Henry is going to defeat Devon Dudley in 3 minutes. Rikishi is going to defeat Batista in 2 minutes. Bloodline goes over. Hurricane and Shannon Moore are going to defeat Billy Gunn and Chuck Palumbo in 4 minutes. Then we get a 6-man tag of Edge, Mysterio, and Cena defeating Angle, Benoit, and Guerrero in 10 minutes. I mean, this SmackDown roster, man. Jamie Noble and Nydia are going to defeat Billy Kidman and Tori Wilson in 2 minutes. And then our main event, Brock Lesnar, Hulk Hogan, which feels like it should be a pay-per-view match. We'll get more into this, but yeah, what an interesting show. I know there wasn't a ton of build to this, and that's part of what I want to talk about during the match, because it just felt like this guy comes out of nowhere, wins the King of the Ring. We're going to throw him in there with Hogan, and then we're going to get to SummerSlam. I mean, this all happened in like 60 days. That's the crazy thing about the Lesnar thing.
Yeah, not even. Like, it's kind of crazy how it happened. And so, so we'll start with Hogan on this one, go back a little bit. So this SmackDown, it was August 8th of 2002. Hogan on the flip side, we'll go back to May. It was actually Judgment Day. He lost here. He had the Undisputed Championship, lost it to The Undertaker. After losing, it was a number one contender match to get the belt back actually to Triple H in June. He actually began feuding with Kurt Angle. They actually had a match at that King of the Ring. You had Angle winning by submission on that one. Getting into July now, you had Hogan actually teaming with Edge to beat Billy and Chuck, winning the tag team championships. Of course, Real American, there was a whole celebration, all this other stuff. They ended up losing the belts to the Un-Americans at Vengeance. That was Christian and Lance Storm. On the flip side, Brock, June of 2002, going back 2 months, like you said, winning that King of the Ring tournament. He beat Bubba Ray Dudley in the first round, Booker T in the quarterfinals, Test in the semifinals, and RVD in the finals to get that shot at the Undisputed Championship at SummerSlam, which taking place after this match. On the flip side, kind of leading up to this, though, at Vengeance, which was late July, you had Lesnar losing to Rob Van Dam in an Intercontinental Championship match by DQ. So this one was interesting. And then the next day he joined SmackDown, actually. So like you said, Brock wasn't even on the same show leading in the few weeks leading up to this, but like you said, very short kind of build on this, that there were a few SmackDown shows where these guys would kind of get into it and they started feuding with each other. Lesnar, they really just interfering with each other's matches. And so I forgot this part, that you had Brock stealing Hogan's limo as well too, and so that was part of this. And so it was actually, the match was made official at the time. You always got to remember who was the general manager at the time and whether there even was a general manager at the time. But we did at this point. It was actually Stephanie. So Stephanie made this match official on SmackDown between these two guys. And so you almost kind of have to look forward a little bit. It's almost weird because, like, and not to spoil too much here, but Brock is about to have, this match at SummerSlam, which everybody kind of saw the trajectory of that and knew what was going to happen with that. But along the way, you get this, 2 weeks before that happens, after like 2-3 weeks of these guys, I say feuding, if you can call it that, at least, kind of, interacting with each other, you get this match first. And so, we can talk more about, should it have been saved? Should it have been on a different time? Like, who knows? Like, but for now, that's how we got to this match. I think, it's, not a ton, like you said. I think there's a whole lot more what ifs that we can talk about during this one, but still, it's what it was. It was wrestling booking in mid 2002. We can definitely say that.
Yeah, I got a lot to say when we jump into it. We're at the 1 hour and 12-minute mark. Season 4, episode 32 of SmackDown. See, when it's an actual TV show, that makes sense because it actually is season 4, episode 32. 1 hour, 12-minute mark. Jeff, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
All right. It's time for the payoff.
Oh, it's time for the payoff.
So there you got Hogan in there. dubbed over awful music.
Yeah.
We're coming back from a commercial break. And there we go.
The legendary.
It's so, look, I obviously I don't think we're spoiling anything. This was Hogan's last appearance in 2002. So remember, we do the NWO thing. Hogan comes in, wins the title against Triple H, immediately loses it to Undertaker at the next pay-per-view. And look, I know it's like 2020 hindsight, but like you compare the booking now versus the booking then. And it's like, okay, if I gave you the players in 2002 and a blank slate to book, you can't tell me you wouldn't have come up with something far better. I put it this way. I look back at a lot of things WWE did in the past. And again, knowing what we know now about Vince, not just the personal stuff. I just mean more of like the erratic behavior from a writing, booking, management standpoint, right? But it's like, I look back at this stuff and I just get frustrated because I'm just sitting there like, okay, you had Hogan, you had Brock. Like, why wouldn't you have had Brock defeat Hogan at SummerSlam for the title?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be way bigger than this versus hot-shotting Hogan to Taker, Rock? I don't even know if it was the same title because I think they had two titles then. But it's like you do all this hot-shotting and like I think there was like a four-way where Taker and Hogan or Taker and Rock were involved or something leading up to the Rock getting the title so the Rock could lose to Brock. None of this stuff meant anything. And like even this passing of the torch moment, it's a 10-minute match on SmackDown. Like, and I know not everything could be on pay-per-view, and I know you need TV ratings, but Jeff, I just look back at so much of what they did, and it could have been so much better. Like the idea of Hogan, one last championship run, why not get us to SummerSlam to where Brock can win?
Yeah, it's interesting too because I was just looking as we're talking here. So Brock headlined every pay-per-view after this, leading up to Survivor Series.
Yep.
And so
didn't he lose at Survivor Series to the Big Show? I think he dropped the title then. So again, we do all of this. You can look it up. We do. So we do
4-minute match. Yeah.
Yes. So we do all of this to get Brock hot. And we beat Hogan. Then we beat The Rock 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later. And then 3 months later, we're losing to the Big Show. Then we go back to him at WrestleMania 19 as a babyface first angle. The booking sucked. And it's like, no matter how good Lesnar was, but you look back at this and you're like, the Lesnar push should have been way better than it was.
Yeah, and that was the Survivor Series with no Survivor Series. And so I feel like okay, and he feuded a lot with the Undertaker with this too. It's like I get it, but also like there was, like you said, there was so much more you could have done with this to like, okay, yeah, he still could have won the belt at SummerSlam, but then like maybe do you do something with Hogan a little bit to kind of push that as well too after the fact, like it just, and I'm wondering too because the next pay-per-view was Unforgiven, and then you get into No Mercy, which we know they're bringing back or brought back, and so it's just you say, you got to have the Undertaker kind of with the. I just don't know. Like, I don't know.
Bro, in today's era, and again, I know it's a different business, blah blah blah, but like in today's era, Brock Hogan is headlining Clash at the Castle or SummerSlam in a stadium, and we've built to it. And then Lesnar's going to have a 2-year title run, right? It's just the difference in how they did all this stuff. It's like, have you ever had one of those days where you were running like 5 minutes late all day?
Yeah.
That's what I feel like the booking was for so many years. It was like they never got ahead of themselves to where, hey, we got this Lesnar guy. All right, what do we do with him? Well, okay. I mean, like why not? I mean, why not an intercontinental title run that lasts for a year? And then finally, it's champion versus champion at a WrestleMania where he defeats the world champion, and now he has both titles. Like, that's way better than hot-shotting all of this. And again, I'm not opposed to strapping but like build to it. And then it's like, I mean, he was gone. The other thing too is you gave Lesnar so much success. What happened? He made a bunch of money at a young age. He didn't know how to handle it. He was a pain in the ass behind the stage. And guess what? He left you. He's trying out for the NFL in like 2 years.
Yep.
Versus someone you could have made money off of for 10 years. And then he went to UFC and he was gone. So again, you can say, oh no, this is great. Like Brock was awesome and it was so great giving him the title. Well, you lost out on having a 10-year run with this guy and slowly building him up because you wanted to make him a superstar overnight because all your booking was month to month and week to week. And like Hogan in this era, you could have gotten 4 or 5 pay-per-view headlines out of Hogan and not one. And here's the thing, like, and I mean, look, this is a slow match, but you're not expecting Hulk Hogan to be AJ Styles. So like, I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, it's a slow match. Hogan's not moving around poorly.
Nope.
I mean, he's Hogan. I mean, Hogan's a 6'6" dude. He just took a big ass power bomb. And
what do you expect?
Yeah, it's a good. Now he's hulking up, and like this is like you could have headlined a pay-per-view with this. No one's expecting Hulk Hogan to go out and wrestle for 30 minutes and tear down the house.
Well,
you know what's crazy? You mentioned Brock's birthday. Point. Brock's only 47 years old.
Yeah, I know. That's what I think I was
so,
shocked.
I mean,
I meant to say that.
So right now, there's no reason, I mean, why Brock Lesnar couldn't have another 5 to 10 year, on and off, of course, run. And that's what I love about like the part-timers now is because the roster's so loaded. We have these part-timers that can come in and out. All right, so big boot. Wow.
As quick as a cat. Oh no. F5's coming. But Hogan countered. Hogan countered the F5. Hogan is
listen to that crowd.
Another big boot. Heyman up.
Solid too.
We haven't even talked about Heyman yet. Heyman here, which is great.
Taking his bumps, yep.
Boom.
Hogan and Rock at SummerSlam. Hogan taking out the next big thing. 1, 2, and Lesnar kicked out.
Wow.
And Hogan can't believe it.
Well, he powered him out strong.
Hogan Rock would have been awesome too, because remember, they still haven't done the rematch yet from WrestleMania.
Yes, good point. Yep.
So I mean, there's intrigue around that.
And as much as
the big wild card in all this is, Hogan and Vince had such an on and off again relationship that, like, I mean, he was, you just never knew if he was going to say, okay, another big boot.
That's third one.
Another leg drop. Oh, no, Heyman.
Hogan, that damn weasel Heyman. Great job by Paul Heyman, but Heyman going to get a big fist for a fist. And Lesnar clubbing from behind. And damn Paul Heyman. It's going to be an F5 pull. Oh, no. F5.
Boom.
Plants Hogan.
I bet that was a horrible move for a guy like Hogan his age to take.
Yeah, to take that, yeah.
Lesnar snapped. Lesnar feels this is his time.
All right, so Lesnar not going for the pin, just posing. I mean, Hogan even grabbing his leg. I mean, I'm sure
Hogan looks like he felt that one. Yeah, he definitely felt that one. Heyman doing what Heyman does best. Yeah, like I say, I hadn't talked about him much, but at ringside, yep, wearing the hat. Yep.
Oh, okay, so now he's going for the bear hug.
Hollywood Hulk Hogan.
A horrible bear hug.
Such a weird. I forgot that he did this. Like, like just. Such a we don't see too many like this type of submission finishers anymore.
Might have been the last bear hug we ever saw.
Seriously.
Hogan's bleeding from the mouth internal. It's coming right out. Oh my God. Hollywood Hulk Hogan is hurt. The blood trickling from the mouth of Hogan. Hogan's busted up on the inside. He's getting the life squeezed out of him. The arm goes down that time. This ain't pretty, man.
All right, there you go. So, about to have the third hand. Okay. Yep, we're done.
Can't continue. This monster has squeezed the life out of Hulk Hogan. Let go, Brock. You got your shot at SummerSlam.
Here's your winner, the next big thing.
Again, I look at this, Jeff, and I get what they were trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But like, you can't, if there was any type of long-term planning here, you're doing this match on pay-per-view. You're letting it breathe a little bit.
Yep.
You're getting, I mean, you flip-flop the title from Triple H to Hogan to Undertaker. Like, they could have made this the change. I just, the booking, man, you didn't get to Hogan Rock again for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so frustrating of like, you had the red and yellow Hulk Hogan and you really couldn't do much with it. Lesnar, again, we're just hot-shotting here. I don't know. Okay, so now Lesnar, and this is the big moment here. Lesnar's going to come back down to the ring now.
I said the crowd was so hot too at the start of this, and they just like don't know how to react now.
Yeah, this actually was not well done. So if you say, look, we have Hogan on board to lose to Brock Lesnar and do an injury angle and to get Brock over. Like, this is just not the right way to do this. And it could have been such a bigger deal. Again, you knew you had something with Lesnar. Like, I don't know. I mean, the booking was just so bad. I didn't even realize how bad the booking was until we've seen now what can be done. And it's amazing because, I mean, it's not like these guys are any less talented than the current guys. I mean, we're talking Triple H, Undertaker, a returning Shawn Michaels, Hulk Hogan, Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, John Cena, Batista, Mark Henry, right? I mean, like these are all the guys that you have at your disposal, and this is the best you can come up with. Oh, and by the way, Ric Flair and Chris Jericho were involved. Edge, Booker T, Rob Van Dam.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, those are some guys that were on SummerSlam. So that's your roster. So the roster then was as good as the roster is now. Maybe the roster now is a little deeper, but at the top, just as good. Now, somehow Hulk Hogan's forehead is bleeding.
Yeah, they said it was from his mouth. It was not.
Well, there's like the mouth, and now there's the head, and I don't know. All right, let's get into the aftermath.
Ho! It's time for the aftermath.
All right, so still going on here a little bit. What did you think of this?
It just, I don't, it could have been so much more. I think, we could fantasy book this to high heaven. And I just think that like, it's almost like Hogan was like, I want to have a match with this kid. And they wedged it in before the SummerSlam.
Yeah, and maybe that's the explanation. And it's like, hey, Hogan and Vince were having a falling out. And, but it's like, I don't know. It's just, again, from a fantasy booking standpoint, you don't have Hogan on the SummerSlam card. You did this on TV. You hot-shotted the title. I just feel like there's so many ways you could have done this better. I actually thought this was going to be better than it was. It's just like,
even the match itself wasn't
great. You mean to tell
me
you had these two guys and that's the best we could come up with? Just disappointing.
Yeah, and so this was Lesnar. Now after this year, Kurt Angle got a submission out of Hogan. Now Lesnar is now the second wrestler to get a submission out of Hogan during this year alone. And as we all saw, he continued to kind of beat on Hogan at this point and kind of go into that. And so Hogan actually left.
And I think, and you know, it's funny because of the angle thing too. I bet you behind closed doors, Vince thought, hey, there's no money left in Hogan. Let me see how many guys I can get over at his expense. So if I can get Angle in the tap out, if I can get Taker on a title win, if I can get Lesnar, I'm sure at some point Hogan's like, okay. I feel like you can't convince me that there wasn't money in Hogan of like, hey, why don't we figure out a way to get you 6 pay-per-view matches between now and the end of the year and make that mean something versus trying to truncate this into 3 months and then you'll go away for 9 months. I just don't get it.
Even if it was the Cena retirement tour and it wasn't an actual retirement, like I think it still would have been better than what we ended up with here. And so, yeah, because as we all know,
isn't that though, like, I mean, isn't that a theme of Vince though, is that he seems to always be ready to like toss out the old guys arguably too soon.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, even, okay, so Hogan and Savage obviously both had gas in the tank in 93, 94, but we're going younger. Well,
yeah.
why wouldn't you want them around? I even think at the end of Austin's run, it was like, okay, out with Austin and in with somebody else. Who else? I don't know if he there was another one I was thinking of too, but like I feel like even Brett, hey, you should go to WCW. I mean, I think he looked at Brett and was like, okay, there's probably not a lot left here. So yeah. I just and I don't know, maybe over the course of, I mean, look, he became a multi-billionaire, so it's like, you know, who am I to question that? But it just feels like his youth movements were always a little too soon. And I think part of it too is, you know, Vince was in the era of, okay, I need workhorses that are going to go out and do whatever I say, and they're going to work 250 matches a year, right? And I'm going to run them until the wheels fall off. And I just feel like what he never saw, I mean, and kind of was forced to with Lesnar towards the end, but like, who's the biggest star in the past decade in professional wrestling? Well, it's Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns barely wrestles. He's barely on TV. So Vince did not see at any point was my biggest star, my biggest moneymaker could actually be someone that does not work house shows, does not work half or more of our TVs, wrestles 8 times a year, and they're going to take us the stretch. So you look at Hogan and Savage and potentially a Warrior in 94, 95, 96. Those guys could have made you a shit ton of money, but all you could think about was, I need to have guys that can go do 250 matches. And I can hear Bruce Pritchard in my head saying, well, it was a different business back then. You controlled the business. The business was whatever you made it. So if you wanted to make the business, hey, we're going to give you incredible live shows, and you're going to see some of the hottest young talent on there. But Hulk Hogan's not going to come to your town. You have to pay money to see Hulk Hogan. He only wrestles on pay-per-view. Randy Savage only wrestles on pay-per-view. The Ultimate Warrior only wrestles on pay-per-view. You're telling me you couldn't have made that business work in 93, 94? WCW made it work. They made money. They kicked your ass with that model. So it's funny how a lot of these things, and again, I listen to every Bruce Pritchard podcast. We're not going to get a Vince McMahon podcast, so the closest we're ever going to get to it is a Bruce Pritchard podcast. And I just, even to this day, Bruce is hard-headed over Vince's hard-headedness 20, 30 years ago. So long rant there, but the point is that I refuse to believe that you can't make money off of part-time legendary people. And if you don't believe me and you think that I'm wrong, look at what Brock Lesnar did for, many years when he came back. Look at what Cena's done. Look at what Reigns has done. You absolutely can sprinkle in these legends part-time. And if you have great long-term booking like Triple H, the continuity's there.
Yeah. And it makes sense. Absolutely.
It makes total sense. And it doesn't offend your fan base.
Yeah. Well, speaking of bad booking, though, we know that after this one, he ended up had the short-lived run as Mr. America, and so can't forget about that, of course, and how terrible that was, and having the match with Piper at Judgment Day, and just not great. And so, like you said, he ended up leaving. He was just really unhappy at this point, and so it was in 2003 that what I read was McMahon terminated Hogan's contract, but who knows what actually happened there, whether he quit and said, okay, fine, I'll fire you, or who knows? And so,
but either way, like how do you not take Hogan's side on that? And I say that because the booking sucked.
Yeah. Yeah. Plain and simple. Absolutely.
I mean, there's just so much bad booking. And it's
Mr. America is just bad.
And man, you look at these rosters and you're like, the talent is as good then as it is now. Yeah. I think the roster's deeper now. I think the in-ring work overall is better now. But dude, look at these characters. Look at these guys you had to work with. I mean, imagine Triple H, what he's able to do now and his team. Go back to 2002 and say, hey, Trips, you got Angle, you got Edge, you got Lesnar, you got Hogan, you got Rock, you got Jericho, you got Undertaker, Mysterio, blah, 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 blah. You got all these guys.
Yep.
Book this out for the next 2 years. The shit that they'd come up with would have been 100 times better than what we got. Again, it actually makes me upset at what could have been. And it's easy to look back and romanticize and be like, oh, Brock was awesome. And Triple H and Shawn Michaels and, this and that. It's like, whatever we got should have been 5 times better than it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just... Absolutely. And there just wasn't that long-term booking then. Like that just wasn't a thing. So, Mr. America, and of course, Brock, as we said, we knew what was going to happen here. Beating The Rock at SummerSlam, became the undisputed champion, the youngest champion at 25 years old, and doing also the fastest, second fastest behind Ric Flair. And so, yeah, so just kind of dealing with that. So what was this? 2002, Brock was 17, Hogan was 19. Don't know about that, but sure, okay. The torch on this one, Brock came through well on last Thursday's Smackdown, facing Hogan in a well-booked, well-executed match. Sure, okay. Hogan and Lesnar had the emotions of the crowd in the palm of their hands. The match played off pattern established, with Hogan facing the next big thing. Yeah, nothing crazy on that one. Observer newsletter on this one. Lesnar beat Hogan. The Hulkster got the usual insane reaction coming out. The match had great heat. Say what you will about Hogan, but he knows how to play the crowd better than almost anyone. Lesnar did a great job himself. His facials were great too, especially after Hogan made a comeback early and clotheslined him out of the ring. Hogan bled, complete and utter destruction. Hogan honestly deserves years of happiness and comfort in retirement for all he's done for these young guys in the last 3 months. I'm not being sarcastic either. Show ended with Brock rubbing his hands all over Hogan's head and then wiping the blood on his torso. There's absolutely no way this could have possibly been done better. Quite possibly the best SmackDown of all time. I swear to God, that's what it says in the Observer newsletter.
Wow.
Yeah, just terrible. So, no stars on any of this, but where are you going to rank this one?
I mean, I have this at like a 5. Mm-hmm. I mean, it wasn't horrible. It's what it should have been.
Yep.
And I mean, Meltzer says it, the pop for Hogan, and you said it too, like during the show, it was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Crowd was super into it. Great crowd reaction. And what do we end up with? So yeah, I mean, you got Hogan willing to put the young guys over, but I thought the execution was bad. So I'm at a 5. What about you?
I'm at a 3. It just
Okay.
it wasn't. I guess we have the hindsight of this to know, like, boy, it just, yeah, okay, yeah, Hogan was putting people over at the time, but at the same time, Hogan's gonna Hogan. It just, it didn't hit like I wanted to. I did not think it was a good match. Like, sure, Brock, like Hogan actually had the upper hand through part of this with all the leg drops he was throwing at him. I get it was only leg drops, but still, like, he was doing it. And so I don't know. It just didn't stick. The landing and none of it kind of stuck with me like I would want it to. So I'm just going to give it a 3.
Okay.
But that's okay.
No argument here.
So, of course, don't forget, whether you got a Hogan mustache or you're smooth like Brock, make sure that you're using our promo code PAYOFF at manscaped.com, our sponsor for as long as I can remember here. Always been a part of what we do. And so 20% off free shipping, anything you put in your cart at manscaped.com, using that promo code PAYOFF. Make sure to use our promo code because whether, it's signing up for the text, you could do that, but you're not getting as much off if you're using our promo code. And so that's always going to get you that 20% off. They've always got, I feel like, there's new packages, there's new stuff, there's 5.0, there's, if you want to just test stuff, they still got the 3.0, like there's all kinds of different stuff. And whether you're doing your face, your balls, whatever, like, pay off at manscaped.com, man, they got you covered. So all right, let's send them home happy. And where are we going next week? Where are we going?
Cruiserweights.
Yeah, a little fall brawl action. It should be good. We're gonna mix it up and do. We got a couple weeks here, so we got some WCW. Then we also got some interesting matches. So this should be good. Next week should be good though.
Love it. Well, this was fun, educational, disappointing. We'll see you next week on an all new episode of The Payoff.